all right, for information that's coming in. So the information that comes in, and we have to integrate it. In this cerebrum, it's going to occur in 3 places. The cerebral cortex as a whole, what we know as our limbic system, and then what they term basal nuclei. Do you happen to know what the term basal refers to? A base, okay? Like on cells, for example, we have a basal surface on some of them. That means it's the base connected to the membrane underneath it, okay? So for this area, like I said, embedded in that white matter, we have some basal nuclei, because anytime we hear the term nuclei, let that remind you that that is an area of nerve cell bodies, dendrites, and synapses that might be present. Okay? So in the cerebral cortex, the layer, that surface layer. Now, the reason that I added this information right here about the cells, the stellate and the pyramidal, this is because when we think about neurons, that tends to be what we think about, okay? Mainly because that is what we have as the most numerous. Not all cells, especially the cells in the cerebrum, some in the cerebellum, the areas of the central nervous system, they're not shaped like that, okay? Stellate, does that make you think about anything?
Star.
Stellar, star, okay? Star-shaped. How about pyramidal? Pyramid. They literally look like pyramids. It's really cool to look at them. So, these cells, the stellate in the cortex, sensory information. Once again, what are our senses? Sight, smell, taste, equilibrium, hearing, touch. The one that we think of as touch, that's our general sensation. The remaining are all special. Special for a reason. Trust me on that. Now, so what they're doing, they are receiving. So these cells are taking in all that sensory information, and then we have to process it. So the pyramidal cells are going to be the output. Because if we have the information come in, integrate it, we have to send a response out. So star cells are the ones receiving, pyramid are the ones sending it out. Whatever's been integrated, okay? I think that's a typo. I don't think I'm supposed to say C-A-N. I think I'm supposed to say C-N-S. Okay, so the fibers, they can connect, of course, to other parts of the CNS, because that means we're getting the communication to other parts of the body to carry out an effect. Now, we have the limbic system. The limbic system, to me personally, is a little confusing, all right? It's made up of the cingulate gyrus. That means that in one of the gyri of the cerebrum, we call it the cingulate gyrus. So it's made up of that, the hippocampus, and the amygdala regions, areas within the cerebrum. So it's kind of like it's diffuse throughout these areas, but what we are learning is how important this is to our, now remember, when I say survival, do you guys remember from part 1, the characteristics of life? There are like 6 or 7, depending on the literature that you look at. What is one of the characteristics to be alive, to be considered alive?
Like homeostasis.
Well, now homeostasis under the characteristics means that that organism knows how to get and use energy. The characteristics were they need to be able to get and use energy. They need to take in their foodstuffs. And then another like characteristic that would have been listed was continuation of the species. They have the ability to reproduce. All right? So for something to be considered alive, we're looking at the organism as a whole, okay? But to our brain, and especially the areas of the brain that we are not fully paying attention to what they're doing, because if we did, we wouldn't be able to do anything else. The goal is to make sure that this organism survives and reproduces. Okay? So, believe it or not, those properties that are expressed, okay, they are based on areas of the brain that we're not controlling. Okay? We can affect them, but we don't control it. So this limbic system, we're finding that based on what it does, it's doing a lot to make sure the organism stays alive, survives, and reproduces. So in this limbic system, where we're going to find emotion and learning, the centers that we know, okay, gratification. Getting food, maybe, making sure the food's tasty, okay. Aversion, don't eat the poison berries, okay. Think about, now even though this is not a human organism, but think about birds, for example. Birds know how to not eat the poison berry. Well, throughout our geological time scale, we've learned to not eat the poison berry because we've seen another person eat them and they die, and we're like, ooh, stay away from those. Okay? Aversion. Maybe that could be you are walking somewhere and the smell comes across, okay? Stuff like that. Pleasure, reward, fear, sorrow, lots of things that, believe it or not, are associated with survival of species, which is the goal. That basal nuclei, like I said, these are going to be areas of nerve cell bodies, and those are going to be involved in motor control. Wait a minute. What other area of the brain did I say was involved in motor control, meaning skeletal muscles? The cerebellum or the brainstem? Cerebellum. The cerebellum is very involved in motor control. So how is it now that we're talking about the cerebrum, the higher order area of the brain, and I'm going, it's involved in motor control? Motor meaning skeletal. How is it that it's involved in motor control?
It's like voluntary movements? Or
It's what you're doing voluntarily. So you're making the conscious decision to do something, like picking up the pencil to write on the paper, getting up out of the chair to move. How does that even get started? Wow, it's so interesting. Wish we had a lot of time to talk about it. So now that we have this sensory information that gets to come in, and now that we're going to have the ability for voluntary, all right? Now, that means that this part of the brain will deal with higher brain functions. The cerebellum and the brainstem were involved with having these little centers that could monitor stuff such as the chemical composition of the blood, blood pressure, oxygen, all this type of stuff that we were not even aware of, okay? But it keeps the organism alive. Now, we have memory. What's cognition? What does that term mean? Thinking, learning, understanding. So, sleep. Yeah, that'd be nice. Memory, cognition, emotions. Huh? What? Sensation. Huh? What? Pain, pressure, touch. Motor control, purposely making an action. Language. When's the best time to teach a child language? Another language?
They're young.
What, how young? Do what?
Toddler.
As they are basically learning how to focus their eyes. So from about the age of 1 to roughly age of 5. You want that child speaking another language? Start teaching it to them then. Teach them 3, teach them 4. Because they're going to learn it. Yes. Get to be my age. Well, my problem is I don't have any more room on the desktop. I can't create any more folders for anything. Seriously, I can't. If somebody were to tell me to take a class right now and try to learn something new, I can't do it. I really can't. The brain's done. It's done. So now, this means all the stuff that we are aware of. But here's what I was mentioning earlier. Because this is a huge area compared to the other parts of the brain. This is a huge area.